What's good? It's your boy Fanon. Man, welcome back to the channel. Man, I'm going to talk about Floyd Mayweather, Gevonta Davis, the world boxing, the WBA, and the media. Little hodgepodge of conversation, man, but the general point is that, man, I can be real hard on Floyd Mayweather sometimes, man, because there's things that, that I don't like that he does, man, but, yeah, when it comes to boxing, man, this cat is obviously somebody that really knows what they're talking about. And, like it or lump it, man, this cat is really, man, he has a lot of knowledge about the sport of boxing. It's evident in his accomplishments, and it's also very, very evident in the things that he said. So he was talking to Gevonta Davis. He had a conversation. Actually, it was in a press conference. And he was talking to Gevonta Davis in the press conference. He's talking to Ruiz in the press conference. And, man, the things that he said really hit home for me. And specifically what he talked about with the media, because I read an article on Boxing Scene this morning when I was getting ready for Trill Boxing Talk, which is going on right now, man. I'm actually doing a video, gonna do the video and then go back to listening to the rest of it. Where Keith Idec from Boxing Scene, man, lit off on the WBA about this fight with Gevonta Davis and Hugo Ruiz. And, man, all I could think of is what an absolute hypocrite. Now, before I go into the details of it, I want to welcome you back to the channel. If you're subscribed, thank you so much for subscribing and supporting the channel. If you're not subscribed, I would hope you'd accept my invitation to subscribe. Also, I hope you'd attend the live streams that we do Monday through Friday, right around 10:15. We're trying to start around 10:15 a.m., but Trill Boxing Talk sometimes will end around 10:30, 10:35. So, sometimes we get pushed out a little bit further. So, right in that time frame. And also check out the Patreon, man. We got a lot of real good stuff coming on the Patreon page. So, talk about the Floyd Mayweather first, man. Floyd Mayweather Jr. stepped up there really to try to take some bullets for Gevonta Davis about the criticism that was coming from Gevonta Davis about the fights that he's had, which, quite honestly, man, I think is unfair for Gevonta Davis. As far as the quality of opposition that he had, I think that criticism is a little early, seeing as Gevonta Davis only has around 20 fights, somewhere around there. But they're not completely unfounded, right? Because there are guys that Gevonta Davis can beat. But what Floyd Mayweather Jr. said, and he reminded me of this, because, it's been a long time, man. I was a big fan of Floyd Mayweather Jr. in the beginning of his career, and I always thought that from the time he fought Janelle Hernandez, that he was fighting very, very tough fighters. And I actually had the impression that I used to think, man, God dog, what are they trying to do? Get this kid beat? I mean, he jumps out there against Janelle Hernandez. He's fighting Diego Corrales. People thought Angel Man Freddy was a big thing. Guys that, were all had great reputations right before Floyd Mayweather Jr. fought him. But then right after Floyd Mayweather Jr. fought him, all of a sudden they're bums, right? And Floyd was talking to Gevonta Davis about his experiences early in his career, about how when he was a knockout artist early in his career in the smaller weight divisions, how, they would criticize, as soon as he fought somebody and beat him, all of a sudden, hey, that guy wasn't nobody. He was a nobody that Floyd knocked out, right? And then after that, when he got into the bigger weight divisions and he started getting older and his body started breaking down. That all of a sudden, he was picking and choosing he wasn't getting knocked out, so he didn't have any power, right? So, and then he talked about the necessity to, fight and do what you do in the ring, and the best you can do in the ring is beat the people that are put in front of you, beat them, one guy at a time. All a bunch of stuff that was very, very true. The thing that really got me, though, man, was he's talking about the media treatment, right? The treatment of Floyd Mayweather Jr. in the media, which in my heart is one of the reasons I became such a big fan of Floyd Mayweather Jr., aside from the fact that he was a tremendous fighter. was the treatment that he would receive by guys that are now, this guy Steve Kim just wrote an article for ESPN that I saw. And I was like, wow, you got Steve Kim covering PBC fights. But with Steve Kim, with Dougie Fisher, with this Keith Idec interview, there's this real undertone of disdain that I sense for Floyd Mayweather Jr. Because Floyd Mayweather Jr., quite honestly, man, gave birth to the premier boxing champions. Al Heyman is the guy that started, that is the main name manager for Premier Boxing Champion, Mayweather Promotions and all that. But really it was the thing that kicked it off was Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s departure from Top Rank and him joining forces with starting Mayweather Promotions, joining forces with Golden Boy Promotions. Originally, there was a Golden Boy East, Golden Boy West, right? And from there, came the PBC. I won't get into all the details of that, but that he really is the guy that started that, really kicked off that movement, right? That right now is winding up, man, where it's just really, I think it's really good for boxing. But I'm reading Keith Idec's his article, right? Where he's talking about something I believe is true. I believe what he wrote in this article is true. He talked about the WBA and how the WBA should have ordered Gervonta Davis versus Alberto Machado. Not coincidentally, I do believe Machado fights on DAZN. I won't get into that this video, but I don't think that's a coincidence that those guys are pushing for that. Regardless, I was under the understanding that Machado, when he beat Corrales, won the WBA super belt, right? The 130, because I won't say super featherweight, right? I will say the WBA super 130 pound title. That makes it easier to get to roll off the tongue. I thought Machado won that against against Corrales when he beat him, when he knocked him out, right? But then when Gervonta Davis fought against Jesus Cuellar, I wound up seeing, wow, this is really the WBA super that's on the belt. Really funny business from the WBA. And I won't deny at all that that's the case. So this guy starts rambling, starts going off, making very solid points about sanctioning bodies and how sanctioning bodies are taking money from fighters, and, pulls out, all these, Terrence Crawford having to pay all this money, and really does talk about the sanctioning bodies being a problem in boxing. But as I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, okay, where were you when the WBA, I don't remember anybody writing how unfair it was that the WBA stripped Guillermo Rigondeaux of a title he wasn't even fighting for when he fought Vasyl Lomachenko. I don't remember these guys writing that. The WBA has done a bunch of shady stuff, and so has the WBO, and so has the WBC. A bunch of shady stuff, but it's just, I find it very interesting how they pick certain fighters in certain situations to point out the unfairness that everybody knows exists in boxing and exists in many, many, many different, that have been exhibited in many different situations. Not a word. I had this in my live stream. Was there anybody raising an objection to Vasyl Lomachenko getting a WBO 126 pound title shot in his second professional fight? Did he? No. The only person I ever heard raise an issue about that was Steve Farhood, when Steve Farhood wrote an article about how they were going to try to say that Vasyl Lomachenko got a record for winning the fastest title ever in his second fight, when really he fought in the World Series of Boxing, and this was really his 7th professional fight, and Fight Facts listed those as professional fights, right? That's the only criticism I can recall of that particular thing. Do these guys jump out there and criticize the passing of the WBO belt from top-ranked fighter to top-ranked fighter to top-ranked fighter to top-ranked fighter? No, Because if they do it, Bob Arum and Top Rank are not going to give these guys access to interview fighters, right? Now, this is... So, I'm just not... I understand that there's a lot of valid points that can be made for criticizing the fact that Gevonta Davis is the WBA 130-pound super champ, right? But there's also a lot of criticism that could have taken place for when they made a Vladimir Klitschko Anthony Joshua fight for the WBA belt when Luis Ortiz was the #1 contender for over a year, and then he didn't immediately get a shot at the title after Anthony Joshua won it. When I don't remember any outrage about that. So it's no outrage about what the WBA did to Guillermo Rigondeaux. No outrage about what the WBA did to Luis Ortiz twice, like suspending him for a positive test that for a WBC fight that the WBA the WBC gave him a pass for, but yet they suspend him in the WBA, right? So that's 2 times to 2 Cuban fighters that the WBA punishes the Cuban fighter for something that has absolutely nothing to do with the fight that they're having. They're fighting a WBC fight. They're fighting a fight where the WBA 122-pound belt isn't even on the line. And if Guillermo Rigondeaux does not win that fight, he loses his belt. Where's the outrage for that? If you're going to be outraged about something, be equally outraged, okay? I understand completely well that, and I don't think anybody that pays any amount of attention, consistent attention to the sanctioning bodies, how they operate, what they do from fight to fight with mandatories, with voluntaries, right? Anybody that would say that the number of sanctioning bodies that we have and the way that they operate is prohibitive as far as making us be able to see the best fights that we can see, right? I have no doubt that Alberto Machado deserves a fight with Gevonta Davis. But the facts are the facts here. That's what the WBA did. There's no need the 2 days before a fight, the day before Gevonta Davis's fight, for you to run him down. Run him down, run the fight down, discredit the fight on one of the more widely read boxing authors, boxing writers in boxing. I'm going to use a phrase from Errol Spence Jr. I want to see that same energy. Let's see that same energy when the WBA gives a top ranked fighter an unfair advantage. Let's get that same energy when you know that Bob Arum is playing games with the WBO belt, like, for example, making Terrence Crawford a mandatory for Jeff Horn before Jeff Horn has ever even taken a voluntary defense, and in effect ending Jeff Horn's reign as the WBO champion before the thing ever even started. So anyway, I just really liked listening to what Mayweather said today, man. I'll apologize for the fact, other than a distracting fight that he came in wearing a chandelier worth of diamonds around the cat. God, dog, that dude got like diamonds. Man, that's a lot of diamonds, man. Anyway, it is what it is, and with that, I'm out. Peace.